Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. We are just going to get started in the next 2 minutes, just waiting for everyone to join in. In the meanwhile, I think I already see a lot of attendees on this webinar. So if you look for the chat and just type in where you're joining in from, and yeah, we'll do some quick like intros through chat itself, and then we'll get started in the next 2 minutes. So if you can access and if you can type in the chat, do type where you're joining in from. Hey, Sharon from Houston. So everyone, whoever is joining, please keep typing in so we know chat is working. Okay, a lot of people now. Vancouver, London, Paris, India, UK. Awesome. A lot of attendees, a lot of different places. So thanks a lot, everyone, for joining in. And I know it's a global audience today. So whoever is joining later in the day or way too early in the morning, thank you very much for joining in and making time for this webinar. And yeah, just to give context before we get started, what we'll talk about today is going to be a very practical guide for AI search. We won't talk about the basics around AI. We'll talk about the actual playbook that we have tried and tested both on our brand and also on some of our clients' brands as well. So we'll talk about one, what should you track? How do you plan what to track, like the kinds of prompts, the kinds of topics to use, so that will be the first part, tracking. Second, we'll talk about what are the metrics that you can analyze out of um, the tracking that you're doing. What are the key insights you can infer out of it? And then we'll also talk about how to prioritize, what prompts to focus on. And then finally, just looking at data is not enough because that's just noise. So we'll also talk about how you can leverage that data to actually improve your or your client's AI search visibility there. So it's going to be an interesting webinar. It's already, I think we are 3 minutes in already. So we'll get right into it. And I do see a lot of attendees have already joined. And yeah, the recording for this webinar will be available. We'll be sending out an email a couple of hours after the webinar. So yeah, everything is being recorded. And at any point, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A section. Ideally, please use the Q&A section. Chat is for just general discussion. We'll try to take up questions from the Q&A first and then go to the chat. All right, let's get right into it. So as I mentioned 2 minutes back, we'll talk about the whole playbook for AI search. It's going to be jam-packed with a lot of content and a lot of insights. So I'll be going a bit faster, but please feel free to type any questions in the Q&A if you have any at any point. So yeah, before we get started, here's some real proof from our own website. This data is a couple of months old, but back in May, um, the total number of sales leads that we were getting for our own website, our own brand, those were about 2% from AI search, rest from different sources like SEO, LinkedIn and all those different places. And this is the same playbook that we used within 3 months to go from 2.5% to 11% of our total leads, sales leads coming from AI search. So very excited to show you today what kind of things we tried both with our brand and our customers as well to see this kind of impact there. This is an example now from a brand. They went from 0 to 4% in AI visibility within 20 days. Now, this is a very interesting example because if you notice, it's a 9DR website. It's in the email marketing and um, automation domain. They are also in like a customer data platform. So they started with almost zero, no SEO presence, no like very less content. And if you see this data is from September, so 1st of September, they were at 0% AI visibility and went to 4%. Right now it's even more, but went to 4% within like less than 3 weeks there. So SEO is still important, but also there are certain things you can still do if you have very tough competition and you're just getting started with this whole thing right now. Now, you've probably heard this multiple number of times. I used to have this slide earlier also. So the AI visitors, as compared to traditional search or other channels, it converts 3 to 8 times better. I've just updated it today to 3 to 23 times better, which is massive. And I'll talk about where I got those numbers from. So some of the data earlier here was from our own research, but then also Microsoft Clarity, which is this data, recording tool, like records all of these events. So it's a data analytics tool. They analyzed a bunch of websites and they came up with this data. I'll talk about it in a bit. But let's talk about the fundamental thing first. Why do AI visitors convert, so much better than traditional search? And the answer is here in the funnel. So if you see these two funnels, traditional SEO, the way it works, you have top of the funnel, middle, and bottom of the funnel. It's very distributed. So people are going through tons of different queries. For example, if you were looking for the best CRM software, you would start with like the awareness stage. You'll search for, what is CRM, or features comparison, or best CRM software, things like that. Then you would decide something, check the reviews, all those kinds of things. So usually it takes about 15 to 30 days on average for a B2B use case, and 20 plus touch points for a buyer to actually make a decision and, let's say, finalize a set of 3 or 4 vendors or solutions to go for. Same thing with AI search. The funnel changes totally. It's one single conversation where top, middle, and bottom of the funnel happen in one chat itself. And so the user is asking very specific direct queries like, oh, what's the best CRM for a 50% SaaS startup? They get certain recommendations, and then they ask, okay, compare the pricing of all of these solutions. ChatGPT or whatever model gives you the response there, and then they ask again, continue that chat. So within 5 to 10 minutes in that one conversation, the customer is much more educated and aware about the market than if they were doing traditional search, Google, going through so many blue links and clicking through those. So it basically trims down your entire funnel. That's why these kinds of users from AI convert better. And this is what I was talking about. So if you just Google, there's a recent study by Microsoft Clarity, just from November itself, last month, where they analyzed 12 million visits from about 1,200 publisher and news websites based on their Clarity data recordings and the analytics that they have there. And if you see, these are the conversion rates by channel, and this is just November data itself. So the sign up click through rate for LLMs, this is 1.66 percentage. Same thing with search. Search in this case, it's Google or Bing. That's 0.15 percentage. So you can see how much difference there is. It's about more than 7x the difference there. And direct is 0.13%, even lower than search. Social is 0.46 percentage. And then the subscription click through rate, that is also quite good. Not that much difference there, but it's still quite good. It's like 3 times more than what traditional search brings you. So yeah, massive difference in the conversion rates there. And if we go to the next slide now, search volume gap is also closing very fast. So AI traffic grew 155% in the last 8 months, with ChatGPT obviously making up for the majority of those AI referrals. And Perplexity is the second number, 15% of those AI referrals as well. And this is expected, AI search is expected to cross over traditional search by 2027 or 28 there. So just wanted to share some recent data points there. Now, before we jump into the actual strategies and the playbook, just wanted to give a quick context why listen to me or why listen to us. So we at Writesonic, we were one of the first few generative engine applications to go into production back in 2021. If you know, GPT-3 used to be there at that point. So we launched our AI content platform at that time, and then ChatGPT launched in 2022. So within 1 week of that, we actually launched our own AI search product, AI search chatbot called ChatSonic. So we integrated web search back in 2022 when ChatGPT didn't have it until like middle or end of 2023. And same thing if you see the image here. Satya Nadella, also the Microsoft CEO, also mentioned us in their Bing AI launch keynote as well. So yeah, basically point being, we have built AI search systems ourselves. So we understand how AI search works, how do RAG system works, and all those kinds of things. So you can trust us with this data. All right, so now let's start with the actual playbook. So very first thing we'll focus on is tracking, what to track, how to track, and what to make out of that data. So we'll talk about those things. Before we get into that, this is something there's a lot of confusion still in the market about these different terminologies. So this is the first thing we'll talk about just to clear the vocabulary for AI search. So this is a ChatGPT screenshot. Everyone here is aware of that. What you send here, it's a prompt. In SEO definition, it's a keyword. Here, it's a prompt. I think everyone knows that. And then this is the answer or the response that you get. Someone calls it a response, someone calls it an answer. And then when a given brand is mentioned as part of that answer, where a brand is recommended as part of that answer, that's called a brand mention. So in this case, Asana is a brand mention, Trello is a brand mention for this query. And this green stuff that you see on the right hand side, these are the citations, which is basically the pages or the sources that were used to come up with this answer by ChatGPT. Now, citations, you have two kinds. So you see this list of citations on the right hand side. This is one set of citations. And then you also have the inline citations. So if you see this green thing in the middle, those are the sentence or the paragraph level citations as well. So just to have a translation table here to map SEO terminology to this whole AI search. If you have keywords in SEO, here this is a prompt. If you have SERP, search engine, rankings in SEO, here you have your answer or response. And then, yeah, ranking, of course, is important here as well, but more important is to be mentioned there, first of all. And then the secondary thing is to be mentioned in the first or the second result as well. And then instead of backlink, you have a citation. Similar thing. The only difference is that with AI search, you don't need to have like a link from the third party website to your own one. Even if you just have your brand mentioned there, that's enough. If you get a link, that's great, but even just a brand mention is enough. And visibility is the new metric, which we'll talk about shortly. So there are 4 or 5 key metrics, or the KPIs that you care about in terms of AI search. I'll very quickly go through those. The very first one is AI visibility score, which basically tells you, let's say if you're tracking 100 prompts, which are important for your business, your product or service, what percentage of those prompts are you appearing in as a brand? Is your brand being mentioned there? So let's say, for example, you were tracking 20 prompts and your brand appears in 8 of those answers of those prompts. So in this case, you can say that you have a 40% visibility because you are showing up in 8 out of those 20 prompts. So this is one of the key North Star metrics if you care about um, your brand being recommended as a product or as a service or a solution for a given problem statement. So this is one of the key metrics, AI visibility score. The better your AI visibility score, the better, obviously. Second thing is brand mentions, which is again similar to that, but this is like the more absolute term, which is basically, okay, how many total number of times was your brand, mentioned across those prompts or the answers that you're tracking there. So this is again very similar to that. This is more just the absolute metric rather than like a percentage metric. Uh, Third thing here is the citation share. This is, I would say, one of the second most like important metrics here because this tells you how much influence does your content or your website have over those prompts that you care about. So citation share, if especially if you're also a publication, this is probably the first or the most important KPI for you. And if you're a brand or a solution, then this is the second most important KPI. And this basically how you calculate this is the number of answers that are citing your content, that are referring to your content as a source, divided by the total number of answers that you're tracking times 100. So, and this is, as we discussed, this is a citation here. So it just tells you, what percentage of those prompts or answers is your content being used as a source there. Fourth one is share of voice, which basically gives you a relative indication of how you compare to your competitors for the industry or the sub industry or the niche that you operate in. And this is very similar to your market share. So if you see the image on the right hand side, if I were, let's say, Stripe, so this tells me if I take a pie chart out of that, what percentage of market share do I have versus PayPal versus Square or any of my competitors. So it gives you a good indication of who is leading the market and what exactly you need to do to win that market there. And then, yeah, fifth one is sentiment. So, of course, sentiment is very important because it's, like what the AI talks about you. If it is mentioning you, but still talking about you negatively, that is more harmful than it not mentioning you at all. So that's where you need to control the brand narrative or the narrative or the perception that different AI models have about your brand. And we'll talk about how to control it later in this presentation. But this is like the fifth most important metric, which is how positively or negatively a model represents your brand. And now, if any of you have not already started using any tools, or if you have not already started tracking prompts for your brand, this is a weekly tracking system. If you are just getting started and you want to start with something without investing in a tool like a Geo or like a AI visibility tool, just pick 20 prompts, a diverse set of 20 prompts for testing. We'll talk about how to come up with these prompts. Pick three AI platforms that are relevant for you. Most common one being ChatGPT, of course. And then, for example, depending on your industry, you might go with maybe one or two more platforms like Gemini or AI Overviews, things like that. So you can start with three platforms, or if you want to even start smaller, you can go with one platform as well. Use incognito mode for testing without login, because you don't want your personalization to come into play and add bias or mess up the results there. And just record these items in a spreadsheet. So every Monday, set a reminder and come back, execute those 20 prompts. So you take those 20 prompts, go to ChatGPT in the incognito mode, send those prompts, see the answers that you're getting, and track like the position, or if your brand was mentioned or not mentioned, and secondly, the position it was mentioned in, and just put it in a spreadsheet. That will tell you on a week to week basis if things are improving, the number of answers that you have mentioned, and it's improving over time, or it's not improving. So that's like a good manual system to start with if you don't want to invest any money into tools right now. Now, how to come up with those prompts? So your traditional sources help out here. So one of the very first ones is, if you are already doing SEO, Search Console and platforms like Ahrefs play a big role. So you can take certain keywords from there, seed keywords from there, based on which industry you are in. And, we can come up with prompts based on that. We have a prompt for coming up with those prompts, so I'll talk about that. But you can fetch those seed keywords in this case from Search Console, Ahrefs. Search Console also shows you some AI mode queries now as well, so you can also directly take those from there. Second is Reddit and forums, because a lot of these discussions are happening on UGC websites and forums like Reddit or any other industry forum. So you can take the kinds of things people are asking from there. Keyword Planner, people also ask questions. Again, those questions or those longer tail queries you can take from there. And then your own support and sales platforms as well. So if you're using any kind of tool like Intercom or any help desk, that would be a good way, or your own sales team, to fetch some of those most frequently asked questions from there. Now you take all of these seed keywords or questions. For longer tail questions, you can use them directly. But otherwise, what you can do is use a prompt like this. And I can share this, after the webinar. You can send me a request. I can send this over. So what this is doing is you just run it on a model like Claude. Claude does the best job here. So what I'm saying here is you are an expert prompt engineer who understands how real users search for things on ChatGPT and all these other AI models. And what I'm doing is giving it the list of those seed keywords that we took from the initial step from Search Console, Ahrefs, Reddit, all those kinds of things. We have defined certain formats for the patterns for the kinds of questions people ask as prompts. And then basically based on those seed keywords, it will be able to come up with those prompts that you can then use for tracking. This is a very quick and easy way of getting started with tracking. Now, next thing here is, okay, now you're tracking 20 prompts or 100 prompts. How do you even prioritize? Because there's no concept of volume here. In SEO, you have Google Keyword Planner, which gives you some amount of volume data, but what to do here? So there are two ways to do this. One way, again, if you're working manually, is again, this is a formula you can use. It's not the most appropriate formula, but it's like a ballpark estimate. So depending on the intent of the query or the prompt, you can have these different multipliers. So what you do is, let's say for a given keyword or a longer tail query, you take the Google Keyword Planner volume, like your SEO volume, and multiply it by these different multipliers depending on the intent type. So for example, if it's informational intent, you would take that query, the volume of that query from Google Keyword Planner, and multiply it by 0.15 to give you, let's say, the estimated AI search volume there. And the focus should, of course, be high volume queries, but with commercial intent. You care more about commercial intent with AI search. Most of the educational intent queries, ChatGPT doesn't even use web search. Like if you go and ask ChatGPT right now, what is SEO? It wouldn't even use web search. So it wouldn't refer to any website there. So you want to ensure that you first focus on high volume plus commercial intent queries. So that's one way of doing it manually. Second way, Sonic has a tool for this called Prompt Explorer, where we have collected data from about 250 million different chat conversations, and we are able to predict the search volume trends over time and tell you how it's doing in different regions and things like that. So depending on your needs, you can go with either of those solutions. So that was the tracking bit. As we discussed, just to summarize, the kinds of how do you come up with those prompts? You either, if you're tracking manually, you can take 20 to 30 prompts, send it to those models every week, and then track it in a spreadsheet. Second way of doing it is, again, of course, you can purchase a AI visibility tool and automate some parts of it. And those five metrics that we talked about, the core ones being AI visibility score, citation share, and share of voice, and also sentiment. So those are the four key things you should care about. Now let's go from tracking to actions, because just tracking that, just seeing that data or those numbers is not enough. That's just noise. What do you actually even do to improve your visibility and see some revenue, see some traction from this whole new channel here? So similar to SEO, based on our testing, all the experiments we have run, our thesis is that, SEO is still the foundation of GEO or AI search. So those three kinds of like similar pillars still apply. You have off page, which is to build authority; on page, your own content; and technical, which is to remove any barriers with crawlability and page speed and things like that. So those are the three key pillars we'll be talking about, but from the context of AI search. Of course, there are certain differences here from SEO, but the overall basic concepts remain the same. So let's start with each of those activities or those action types, and we'll go into what exactly you can do to take advantage of it. So let's start with off page. Off page is very important for AI search. Reason for that being AI weighs third-party citations 6 times higher than your own content. So AI cares more about what others talk about you than what you talk about yourself on your own content. So off page is very important. Um, and this is also a recent report that we did. So we analyzed about 2.4 million domains last month. And these are, I hope everyone is able to see these graphs, but these are the top universal domains which get the most amount of citations. So if you see here, the most common ones here are UGC platforms. So all of these dark blue ones are actually UGC platforms. So you have Reddit, Wikipedia, YouTube, LinkedIn, Medium.com as well. And then apart from that, of course, you have things like G2. G2, I guess it's also kind of like a UGC or a forum as well. And then you have some of these other websites like techradar.com, Amazon, Apple, Coursera, Microsoft, all of these kinds of things. So essentially, these are some of the most common ones, most common domains where AI gets its citations from. And Reddit is one of the most important ones here, along with some of these other ones like Wikipedia as well. Another interesting thing here is universal domains, as in domains which operate in multiple different regions, tend to get 182 times more citations than single platform domains, which are just like operating in one region or one category and things like that, which is obvious because with UGC you have so many different things, so many different subgroups or subreddits and all that kind of stuff that it gets diversified pretty quickly. Different languages, different regions, all those kinds of things. So universal domains get much more citations than your single domain single domain websites. Okay, now let's talk about off-page. So in terms of off-page actions, there are two things. The very first one is you need to get mentioned on third-party websites which talk about your competitors but do not talk about you, right? Because if those are already being, those blogs, third-party blogs are already being cited, if you get yourself also mentioned there, given that competitor is already there, immediately within 1 to 2 days, you will start seeing the results there. You don't need to wait like SEO for like months to see impact. That's the first thing. So how you do that is, you have to find out which are the articles where competitors are mentioned, but you are not mentioned. This is your citation gap. And an example here, if you can see the image, there's this TechRadar article, which is techradar.com/best scheduling apps. apps like Calendly and all of these calendar scheduling tools. Now, if you see, there's so many diverse set of prompts where this page is being cited. It's not just being cited for like best scheduling apps. It is also being cited for all of these different queries, which are not directly relevant to this. I mean, they are relevant, but these are very diverse. It's not the exact match keyword. It's similar intent, but different kinds of prompts here. So these, if you see all of these different kinds of queries, that same article is being cited for. So what you need to do is now you can reach out to this Tech Radar article, whoever wrote it, like whoever that author is who wrote this article, and give them something in return that, hey, you mentioned our competitor. We have this data that we can share with you, or we can offer you a free annual subscription of our platform, or give you an expert quote from our leadership. So something in return you need to offer to them, and you do an outreach to them, ask them, hey, you mentioned our competitors. Can you also mention us here? That's all you need to do. It's similar to backlink outreach, but you are doing here more for websites which are already being cited, where competitors are mentioned and you are not mentioned. And if you get mentioned there, if they agree to you, not everyone will of course reply back, but let's say out of 100, even 10 or 15 of them reply back. Immediately, if you are able to get mentioned there, you'll see a bump in visibility in the next like couple of days itself. So that's one thing, outreach. Another way of doing it is there are a couple of other ways. One is paid advertorials. So if you have the money, if you have the budget, you can also do sponsored or sponsored placements there on certain websites. Now, the thing with AI is it doesn't care. Like Google cares about the sponsored tag and it does not give a very high ranking. And many times it does not even rank it in the main results. But that's not true with AI right now. Even though it is sponsored, AI would still pick it up as like a non-biased result would do as well. So one is paid advertorials. Second is outreach. We already discussed. You also have digital PR. So if you're doing any kind of press releases, podcasts, conferences, digital PR also plays a big role in this citation gathering as well. And then third thing is partnerships. If you can do any kind of affiliate programs, content syndications, integration directories as well. So that is another way to build out, these citations there. So that's the very first thing we talked about. Get mentioned on websites where competitors are mentioned, you are not mentioned. Second kind of action item within off page is UGC platforms and forums like, as we discussed, Wikipedia, Reddit, Quora, medium.com, all of these different ones. And a very quick way to do this, like a simple formula for Reddit, take 5 subreddits which are important to you, to your industry or the product or the service that you offer, and just do maybe 3 valuable posts weekly across those 5 subreddits. Like, so in total, like 3 valuable posts. Don't directly promote the product, keep it valuable. And then towards in the comments or something, you can certainly mention your product. Try to do 2 helpful comments daily and 1 AMA quarterly. That's enough to get started. We ourselves are doing this for our own brand, and we are seeing like a massive amount of um, citations that are coming in from Reddit. And just by getting mentioned in one of those subreddits, those threads, it's massively increasing um, the number of mentions that you're getting, because that same Reddit thread is being used across hundreds of prompts there. And this is another interesting study we did with Reddit. Now, these are the different citations. If we talk about citations for alternative queries, so if you're searching for things like Canva alternatives or HubSpot alternatives and things like that, so any kind of brand alternatives, so for those alternative queries, these are the top cited domains there. And if you see, Reddit is like the has a massive share here. It's like the highest cited domain for those alternative queries. So Reddit plays a big part for anyone. Like, for example, if someone is searching for HubSpot alternatives or Canva alternatives, things like that, it will likely pick it up from Reddit. Second thing would be Wikipedia, and then you have G2, YouTube, all of these kinds of platforms. So Reddit definitely a big one to focus on, along with those other UGC platforms as well. So those were the 2 things on off-page side. Now there's one more thing here, which is to control your reference data. Now, because AI is reading about you from everywhere, literally Wikipedia or every other random blog on the web. So you need to ensure whatever information is present about your brand, your product, your service online is up to date, is accurate, and it accurately sort of represents the current positioning or the messaging that you have. Simple example I'll give you. If you see, this is our own Wikipedia page. Before, it used to say that, oh, WriteSonic is an AI writing tool, because people used to know us as an AI content creation or AI writing tool. Now, what we did is last 1 or 2 months, we have been going to Wikipedia, going to G2, going to a bunch of different blogs and websites, and getting our positioning updated, because we focus on this AI search optimization, geo kind of things now. So just by updating this Wikipedia page, just next day we saw about 10 to 15 new mentions we got, because you know ChatGPT and some of these platforms immediately crawled it and were able to learn the new thing from those. So same thing, you can rinse and repeat it for G2, Captera, industry directories as well, because these play a big role in determining what kind of messaging you have. And definitely Wikipedia, if you already have a page, make sure your content is up to date there. And if you don't have a page, if you can, then try to get it created, because Wikipedia, as we discussed, it's a big source for citations and defining the way a model represents your brand. So that's all about off page. Just to summarize, we talked about, getting mentioned on third-party citations where competitors are mentioned. We talked about UGC platforms like Reddit, Wikipedia, Quora. And then third thing which we have open here, it's controlling your reference data and keeping your products information up to date online. So that was off page. Now let's get into on page. So of course, you have third party content, but now you also need to care about your own content. So your own content should be good enough that AI cites it. And for that, you need to write in a specific way, write certain kinds of content, which we'll get into now. So the very first thing, one of the very first action items on the on-page side is to find winning topics, topics which are already being cited, whether from your competitors or whether from other third-party websites, which you have not written about, and try to write on that. So the way to do it is, if you were doing this manually with a tool, you can do it much more quickly. But let's say if you were doing it manually, taking an example here, let's say in ChatGPT incognito mode, I search for what are the best CRM platforms. Now, these are the recommendations that were shown: HubSpot, Salesforce, Zoho, all of this. Now, you note down the citations on the right-hand side. We have Zapier, TechRadar, all these kinds of things. So we are seeing what are the citations that get cited for the prompts that I care about. So let's say the prompts that I'm tracking are best CRM platforms or CRM platforms for startups and things like that. And I noticed that there are these 5 or 10 cited pages, which are getting cited for a bunch of these different prompts that I care about. So what I can do is cluster those together. I can take essentially the cited pages, which are very similar in intent. So for example, if someone has written a blog about best CRM platforms for startups in 2025, and I know that there are 5 other people, two of my competitors and 3 other websites which have written on this exact topic. Their title might be a bit different. Like someone is talking about 10 best CRM platforms, another one is talking about 5 best CRM platforms for startups, things like that. So the intent remains the same, but the title and all that might change. So you collect the pages and group it by similar intent or topic. So one example here for let's say if we were talking about customer data platforms. Now, if you see all of these pages, all of them have different titles, right? But all of them are getting cited quite a bit for customer data platform related queries. But one common trend you'll notice is everyone is talking about like a listicle essentially. So top 20 highest rated customer data platforms in G2, or 9 best customer data platforms, or 11 best customer data platforms in-depth look. So the title might differ, but it's the similar intent. So you know now, okay, because this kind of topic is getting cited already, my competitor might have written or whoever might have written. So if I write a content like this on my own website, it's very highly likely that my own content will also get cited. So now that's what you need to do. You learn the semantics from there. What are the topic that they have written about? What are the things they have mentioned as part of their um, content? And you write a much better piece than them, which is more AI optimized. What I mean by AI optimized is essentially include all the companies from other lists and add some of the other ones which they have not included. Include fresh data from this month or last few months, fresh pricing information, all that kind of stuff. have detailed information and comparison table on top. Some of those other ones having FAQs and pros and cons and updating it monthly. We'll talk more about the optimization, but yeah, those are the kinds of things that AI cares about, especially freshness and having comparison tables and stuff, and having little bit more accurate information there. So as long as you create a better article there, you push it out, most probably it is going to get cited, and you'll start seeing similar results like competitors there. So very similar example for the brand I was talking very initially when we started the webinar, which went from 0 to 4% visibility in 3 weeks. So the brand is called Maestra, and if you see earlier, they were not getting cited for customer data platform related prompts, but now it's like more than 33 answers that they are getting cited for their own page. So that's that. And then again, as we discussed, if you look at the funnel with chatbot platforms right now, commercial intent queries are more important than informational. Informational, a lot of them can be answered directly by ChatGPT itself. So you need to care more about bottom of the funnel, middle of the funnel, sort of commercial queries, which where the user would be more likely to convert there. Now let's talk about writing new content. What are the kinds of formats that dominate? And before I get into that, this is some recent data analysis that we did on the citation share from different formats or different kinds of articles. So the one that dominates here is listicles. So if you see the bottom row here, 32% citation share for listicles or best alternatives, or not alternatives, sorry, best customer data platforms or best email platforms, things like that. So any of the listicles are getting the most number of citations. Then we have what is kind of queries. Now, this really depends. It works in certain cases, it doesn't work. What is, like, for example, if you write what is SEO, what is AI search, many times AI doesn't even trigger the web search queries there. So you need to be cautious about these kinds of queries, but still, it's like the second highly cited thing here. Then you have alternatives, comparison posts, and so on. But listicles play like the biggest part here. So and 90% of commercial mentions actually come from listicles. So make sure you are doing relevant listicles on your blog in terms of the content that you're writing about. And many times right now, interestingly, AI content is getting better citations than human written content for some reason, because the structure and all of those is quite relevant to AI. So even if you're able to very quickly push out a bunch of listicles, as long as it's factually accurate, you'll start seeing the results quite quickly there. Second is A versus B comparisons. So for example, if you're doing competitor A versus competitor B or competitor A versus your own brand, this gets quite a lot of citations as well. Similarly, not a lot of people focus on this. A versus B versus C comparisons, where you compare three competitors with each other, or you compare two competitors versus you. So these kinds of three-way comparisons are even more effective, because then it's going to pick it up for all kinds of these random queries which you would have never even thought about. It just that due to the query fan out mechanism, it picks it up from like a lot of these articles. For example, with this comparison one, it would pick up that, oh, what is the pricing of competitor A? Even though this article is not about pricing, it's about comparisons, it would still pick it up. So that's why this three-way comparison is quite important. And then review articles as well. If you're able to directly do a review of the competitor, that's another one as well. And there are some more formats which are still relevant. Those are not going anywhere. Homepage, product pages, again, very important. Because if you see, this is the data for our own website from a few months back. Homepage and some of these product pages get much more visits. These are AI crawler visits, by the way. These are not Google visits. Much more visits than even some of the blog content as well. So homepage and product pages are still very important. Make sure you are keeping those optimized. Data studies is another one where you are doing some unique research, which no one has talked about before. Definition and FAQ content, we talked about what is AI search or what is this, or certain direct FAQs that you can answer. And the most important thing here, we'll talk about certain optimization items now, like how do you actually structure and write your content. This is where everyone has been used to writing these 5,000, 3,000 word articles, really long articles. And usually how we write is like a pyramid, which is we start at the top, like an intro, we then give some more context after that, and then basically write this big article. And at the very end, in the conclusion, the actual answer of that question is mentioned there. But with AI, you need to be actually opposite. So you need to reverse that pyramid and go from top to bottom, which is like, most important information should be first, which directly answers that question or that prompt. Then you add additional details, and then you add any general context or general information after that. So this is the bottom line upfront framework. Start with the most important one at top, then additional details, and then the generic information. This is what will help you, rank in AI search there. Also, humans have very short attention spans now due to just watching TikTok and all those kinds of things. So same with AI, it doesn't care if you write like 5,000 word articles. If you write 1,000 word one with accurate to the point information, that's going to be much better. Another thing is, wherever possible, of course, you can't, overstuff this, but wherever possible, especially in the first few paragraphs, instead of using we or I or all those kinds of things, use the actual brand name, because you want to create some, semantic relevance in the model where it knows that in this case, you're talking about Right Sonic as a brand and not like who is we here. So that's why, at least in the first few paragraphs, try to mention your brand name instead of just saying we or are and all those kinds of things. First 100 words now get the most amount of attention. So 80% of attention goes to the first 100 words. So make sure the most important information that you're trying to convey and the question that the answer of that direct question, it's present in that first 100 words, because that's going to be the first thing that it picks up. Many times it even skips the rest of the article, just goes with the first 100 or 200 words. So it's very important to make sure that has the most accurate information there. Another thing is one idea per paragraph. So instead of writing long paragraphs, break it down, have one unique idea per paragraph. So it's more parsable and readable by AI there. Tables, again, another factor. Tables multiply citations. So make sure you have enough tables, whether it is like, the comparison tables or whether any other kinds of tables that you add to the blog. And key takeaways, this is a very important one. So key takeaways should be present first. So like a TLDR version of your article at the very top, so that even if the model doesn't go and read the rest of the article, it can at least consume those first few couple hundred words and read those TLDR takeaways there. Include specific facts and figures. I mean, this is a given even with Google. So you need to ensure EEAT. So you need to ensure proper factual information and, numbers are present there, because that helps with AI trusting your content more. Schema markup still matters, so make sure JSON LD schemas, rich snippets, those are properly defined. Meta tags, again, very critical. This is super important because many times, many AI models, even ChatGPT, when they started earlier on, right now it's a hybrid, but earlier on, they just used to read your SEO meta tag snippets, like just the meta title and description, didn't even use to scrape the actual article. So it's still very important that the meta tags are up to date and has the right keywords and is, catering to that intent of that query. So make sure meta tags are up to date and properly defined. And then, of course, we talked about freshness signals. So AI has extreme recency bias. 65% of the AI hits, come from pages which are less than 1 year old. So make sure your content is up to date and you're updating it every few months. And that is where you need to also ensure that your last modified date in your blog, you have a meta field for that and defining when it was last modified. So AI knows when it was last updated. Another thing you can try here as a trick, in the title itself, if it's something, something which gets out of date, you can also use this format, last updated this month. So for example, last updated December 2025, that also helps build a signal for AI as well. Now, very quickly, we are already 45 minutes in. So very quickly, we'll jump into the third pillar, which is technical foundation. So what you need to do here is, make sure you're not blocking the right bots. You can block the wrong bots, but make sure you're not blocking the right bots there. For example, ChatGPT itself has 3 or 4 different bots. There's one bot that is used just for training the next model, like GPT-6. One bot is using for, the actual user queries, and then there's one model that they're also using to train their build their web index as well. So make sure you're not blocking the right bots there. Uh, JavaScript, again, it's something that most models are not able to read. So try to avoid that. And then broken pages is another thing. So if you can install a server-side script, like we provide AI bot analytics, Cloudflare also has like a AI crawler thing that you can install, and it would show you what are the broken pages where these models are coming to your website, but seeing some errors like 500 errors or 404 errors. So make sure those crawlability issues are resolved. Otherwise, if the model is not able to crawl it, it won't be able to use you or cite your content there. And yeah, the divergence has begun. 2025, we are still seeing that AI models are using the traditional indexes. So, for example, ChatGPT Plus is using Google and a version of their own index. ChatGPT Free is actually using their own web index. They keep experimenting with this every few weeks. Perplexity is using their own index. Claude is using Brave's index. So there's a lot of different variations like this. But if you see right now, still the models depend on the traditional web index. Everyone is trying to build something out there, but still very much reliant on the traditional web search index. But this is going to change very soon in 2026 due to all of this new stuff. There's this shopping research thing from ChatGPT. There's agentic commerce where you can purchase things right inside ChatGPT, and they're also integrating Shopify and Etsy. Apps are also coming. They are building their own index, and then you've probably heard of ChatGPT Atlas or Perplexity Comet, which are those agentic browsers. So as more and more of these things come into the system, the AI search will start to diverge away from traditional web search. So you need to ensure you get started as soon as possible, so that you're taking advantage of your SEO foundation. And at the same time, you're preparing for the future, which is going to be this whole agentic thing as well. And yeah, I'll quickly also now 5 or 10 minutes I'll jump into Right Sonic. We'll quickly show you how you can do all of these things. You can do that manually, but we can also help you automate a lot of this. And we are one of the only platforms that doesn't just help you track, it can actually tell you exactly what to do and what kind of ROI you get from there. So the action bit. So we'll take 10 minutes quickly going through it on how you can execute some of those things. In the meanwhile, if you guys have any questions, feel free to type it in the Q&A and we'll take it up in 10 minutes. We are up on time, but we'll spend 15 more minutes after the webinar just to go through the questions. So I'll just very quickly stop sharing and share a different screen. All right. So yeah, hopefully you can see my screen. And yeah, so what we talked about, I'll just show that in action, not to sell the product or anything, but just very quickly showing that in action. So the core metrics we talked about is our AI visibility, which is basically how many prompts that we are tracking, we are being shown or recommended for those prompts. So that's our AI visibility score. And then you have citations, you have your, you know, share of voice or your market share and your position data as well. So the very first thing you need to do is come up with the prompts that you care about. So in this case, I told about like, okay, manually you can go and do it using Search Console and all of that. But here, once you onboard onto the platform, we are able to automatically, you just define the topic. Let's say if I was Stripe, taking an example of Stripe, it's a payment processing solution. So let's say if my topics that are important to me are SaaS billing and subscriptions or online payment processing, e-commerce payment solutions. So those are my topics. Now, these are the prompts that we automatically generated here based on 2 or 3 different data sources. So one I talked about, Google Keyword Planner, Reddit, certain other platforms like, people also ask questions. So we take seed keywords from there. We apply the patterns that we learned from our chatbot data set of about 200 million conversations. And based on that, we are able to create these prompts. And you can also generate prompts using keywords, using AI, upload your own prompts as well. And you'll see that these prompts are a mixture of um, branded, non-branded queries, and also different intent types here as well. Same thing, if you're a multi-region brand, you probably need to do that across different regions as well. So you would have region-specific prompts and like this, and you would also have language-specific prompts to cater to the nuances of each language. So that's how you come up with this whole data. The data in is equal to data out. So you need to ensure that the data itself is of good quality. The prompts are of good quality. Only then your you'll start to see the results. So that's one. Second thing is you define who are your main competitors. So let's say in this case, I'll go with the US market. For Stripe, it would be, let's say, PayPal, Braintree. We also suggest other competitors here. So once you do that, what we are doing here now, the manual way of doing it is you would take those prompts, and as I mentioned, you would send it in incognito mode to ChatGPT or any other model and track it in a spreadsheet. But it's a very cumbersome process. So what we are doing here is taking those prompts and sending it to these different models. We support about 8 models, all of the Groks and all those kinds of ones. But let's say in this case, those 4 models, we are taking those some like 400 something prompts, and we are sending it to these models on a daily basis. So you can see when is the next run going to happen. And then based on all of those answers, these answers are just for one day, in this case, 29th October. We track the answers and the output that we got from there to come up with these insights like your AI visibility score, how you compare with competitors, how you are doing on different platforms like Gemini, Perplexity, ChatGPT, what's the position data, what's your market share, what are the top cited domains. So again, you'll see Reddit is the most cited one here. What are the top cited pages from your own website, and then which are the prompts which are working for you, where you're showing up, and the prompts which are not working for you as well. And I can also go inside and see exactly the answer that came out of the model for that country, that language at that time. So I can see exactly what came out, what were the citations. So I can at any point go back and see the responses that came out of that. So that's on the tracking part. Now, again, you can go deep. You can analyze your sentiments as well. You can analyze your citations, prompts, all those kinds of things. But just for the sake of time, I'll jump into Action Center because, okay, you can do all of this manually. But the key thing here is, can I automate all of this? Because I don't have time. I have to look after SEO. I have to look after maybe any other marketing channels. So what do I do out of that? So this is where we have our action center. We talked about off-page, on-page technical items. On the off-page side, we have get mentioned on third-party websites, as in the websites which um, talk about competitors but don't talk about you. So in this case for Stripe, if you see, these are the different pages where certain competitors like Bill.com or PayPal are mentioned. And we automatically do this analysis. So you don't have to do manual data crunching there, and we tell you, okay, these many answers you missed because you were not present on this page. Now you can click on this draft email button. It will automatically draft an email. Very soon it will also be able to get you the author details like their LinkedIn and email, and you send an email to them. Once you do that, you can do this across and just update the task status here to complete it. And then you come back here after 1 or 2 days and you can see, oh, because I got mentioned on this page, five new answers started mentioning me, and my website, my visibility increased by 0.25 percentage. So everything is trackable and you see the ROI immediately out of that. Same thing here for UGC. It automatically identifies which Reddit threads or LinkedIn Pulse articles or Wikipedia and all of those to focus on. And I'm missing answers due to that. So same thing, let's say you go to this Reddit forum and best app to transfer funds. Let's say if this is relevant for Stripe, they would go here and add a comment, and immediately it will start picking it up and show it in the results tab here again as well. Same thing for content. For content, as we discussed, we need to see what is already working for competitors, what is already getting cited, and cluster those together and then write on that similar content. So in this case, these are the topics which my Stripe's competitors have written about. So if Stripe also writes about these, they'll get the benefit there. So now they can write on that manually, or they can also use our article writing agent to write the whole article and publish it. And same thing you want to do for existing content where you want to identify, oh, comparison table is missing from here, or schema markup needs optimization. So it will automatically identify which pages need work, need optimization, or have not been updated for a while. You click this optimize button, it will take you to our optimization editor, and it will give you the rewritten versions of those sections or those FAQs and all those kinds of things. It will analyze the entire content and give you suggestions for different things, and immediately you will start seeing the impact there. So as I mentioned, unlike SEO, it doesn't take months here, it takes days to see impact. Same thing you can also do for technical as well, like identify the pages which are broken, or the issues with your robots.txt files, and so on. So that's the action center. If you want to automate things, you can use this. And last bit that I talked about was volume data as well. So if you see here, we have this thing similar to how Ahrefs has or SEMrush has Keyword Explorer. We have for prompts. Enter a prompt here, and we'll tell you what is the search volume for that prompt. What's the trend over time, and how it is doing in different regions. A few other data points we're adding here as well. But this gives you a good indication that, oh, should I focus on this prompt or some other ones? And tells you like a relative difference between what is more important commercially and also has more volume. And that is what you focus on. So yeah, that's in a nutshell. If you care about tracking and actually specifically taking action on your visibility, there's a lot of visibility tools, but there are not a lot of action tools. So we help you with that action and the volume part as well. But yeah, that was it for this bit. Just wanted to quickly demo this. So if any of you are interested in this, you can head over to writesonic.com and click on this, either sign up for a free trial or click on this book a demo button, and we can do a personalized website audit for you. So if you're looking to get a free AI website audit, fill out this form. Our team will reach out and we can do a free audit and an action plan for you. But yeah, that was it for this. We'll quickly take up any questions. Let's see if we have. Okay. I think our team has already answered quite a few. Yeah, so the first question is, do you have a source for this AI-based third-party citation, 6x higher? We do have, there are multiple different sources. So our team, if you have the link for this, if you can add it, that would be great. Otherwise, yeah, I can send it over. So Jeppe, if you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, happy to share the link for those sources. There's a bunch of sources that have done that research and given that information. Okay, then we have Silsi. What's your take on translations of your content to be? Okay, I think our team answered that. Are infographics images with alt text and captions helpful for AEO? Yeah, so alt text are still helpful. Images and infographics, it depends. So usually the model does not read those images directly, but definitely alt tags help there because it is able to, when it is scraping your website, it reads those textual descriptions, and that definitely helps with geo as well. So definitely alt tags still very important, and many of those similar SEO fundamentals actually apply as well still. Okay, and then we have, will AI engines considering the Reddit profiles credibility? Otherwise, companies can spam fake users. It depends. I think right now, not so much. Right now, it's very similar to what SEO was like long time back, where you can still try these experiments and do certain things, which maybe later on it will be stricter. But yeah, right now it's very difficult. Maybe Reddit has their own algorithms to identify fake users, but AI does not do that right now. It cares more about what is mentioned, how many times is a specific thing mentioned, and does it based on that. So yeah, I think, yeah, that was it. Our team already answered a bunch of those questions. So all good. I think we are on time. And yeah, I think thanks a lot, everyone, for joining in. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. I'm also sharing my LinkedIn profile, so you can just directly reach out here as well for any questions. And thanks a lot for joining and hope you found it helpful. We'll be doing another similar session with actually some experts next month, back in January after the holidays. So do keep in touch with our social media channels, and we'll be sending more information about some of those thought leaders in SEO and the geo space coming in to give certain insights for you guys. Until then, thanks a lot for watching. Happy holidays and hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.